Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for March 3rd, 2014. Tonight we do have no public hearings on, but we do have a new business for our pre-application session for 122, 130 Andrew Street and 180 Moore Street. The following individual has requested the Planning Board to provide a preliminary review for their proposed project at the above listed address. This is not a public hearing. The Planning Board will render no decision related to site plan review, nor guarantee any future decisions, whether positive or negative, on any project that receives pre-application review. The applicant is C&F Realty Trust. The project is the applicant proposes to demolish the existing facility on site and subdivide the property into 6 lots. The project also includes the construction of 6 two-family structures for a total of 12 dwelling units, with access to the site coming from Moore Street via a common driveway. The applicant is seeking special permit and site plan review approval under section 5.1.10, 6.7, and 11.4 of the City of Lowell zoning ordinance. The parcels in total comprise of approximately 48,700 square feet of land and are located in the traditional two-family zoning district. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed, just for the record, I will be recusing myself on this matter.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fischette.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board, and I apologize for my voice. I'm coming off of a week-long cold here. For the record, my name is Matt Hammer. I'm with Lamplex. We have offices down at 11 Kearney Square, and I'm here on behalf of C&F Realty Trust to bring you up to speed with the process that we've been going through with DPD as well as the neighbors, and we're here for a pre-application informal discussion to go over a project that's located at the corner of Andrew Street and Moore Street. The property was previously known as the Sacred Heart School, which is at the corner, again, at Andrews and Moore Street. There's an existing 2.5-story brick building on the premises, and immediately across the street is the project that the board reviewed last year regarding the conversion of the church into apartments with 3 separate buildings. I'm going to take you through a process that we've gone through. Primarily, it started off with the rezoning of the parcel. It was previously a traditional single-family district, and now it's been recently converted and rezoned to a traditional 2-family district at a city councilors meeting approximately 2 months ago. We have been meeting with the neighbors, like I said, to go over the different options on the property. And I have a series of plans I'd like to show you. First is the existing conditions plan is up on the board. Like I said, it's a brick building, and the majority of the entire parcel is paved with parking lots. There's an entrance on Moore Street in the southeasterly side, and then there's a entrance to the property off of Andrew Street. I'm going to hand out some plans to you now.
Thank you, sir.
What this plan shows is how the parcel would be subdividable through the issuance of a special permit for a reduction in frontage from the 85, which is required, the 80 feet that's required, down to at a maximum of 65. And what this plan shows you, that you could subdivide the parcel into 6 8,000 square foot parcels with, at a minimum of 65 lineal feet of frontage. And that's how the property lays out. I'd like to note that parcel 6, because of the lot width requirement, needing 80% of the required frontage that's required in the district, would have, because it has a dog leg up in the rear, would only be able to accommodate a single family. So it's important for us to recognize what the conventional zoning would allow us to do on the parcel. And that's the importance of that plan. I'm now going to hand out another plan. I know you have a lot of plans, but it's important to understand the process of where we've gotten to up until now. What this plan represents is if you took those conforming parcels and you were to put what we would propose as of right, which would be duplexes along Andrew Street, and then there would only be a single family along Moore Street. And that's just simply what that plan shows. It shows a common driveway in the rear. But you could also do driveway entrances from the adjacent roadways as well. So, as we've done in the past, we try to work with DPD and the neighbors. And when we first brought this project informally to the counter of the DPD, we said, well, wouldn't this be a great project to have a common driveway in the rear instead of having individual driveway entrances off of Andrew Street? And in the packet that you have, there is a plan there that shows what curb cuts coming off of Andrew Street and Moore Street would look like. I don't know if you can see that plan. And we brought that to the neighbors, and the neighbors, and we met with the neighbors this past Saturday as well, bringing them up to speed where we are in the process. Would essentially take out most, if not all, the parking along Andrew Street if you were to put in conventional curb cuts. And you have to mind that we didn't put a lot of thought into the curb cuts themselves, just to show that there would be an individual curb cut to each dwelling. And you can see putting curb cuts along the roadways would virtually take away the on-street parking. So what we did was we met with the neighbors, showed them the plans, and they were strongly supportive of the project overall, with the primarily in an effort to leave the parking as sustainable to support the neighborhood along Andrew Street, and if we could even to remove any curb cuts even into the project itself off of Andrew Street. So we went and met with DPD, and you have this colored rendering, which is a project which we would like to do, which would, I'm going to put the rendering up on the board. So we came up with this plan. And what this plan allows us to do is to have a common driveway in the rear of the property that can access all of the dwelling units. And what it does is it it removes all the parking off of Andrew Street, and what we've essentially have done is been able to accommodate 3 parking spaces for each dwelling unit itself. You're going to notice on Lot 3, because of the 15-foot by 15-foot minimum requirement for a dimension of the area to accommodate a usable open space, because there's a small notch in the rear property line, we were not able to have that lot conform to the usable open space. But we had a plan before which actually showed that you can actually put in those additional parking spaces on that proposed Lot 3 if the board felt as though we had enough amenities and open space on the property that would conform to the intent of what you're trying to achieve with usable open space. And what we've incorporated into all of the units is a patio area outside of the sides of all the units. And the usable open space was try to accommodate something such as a patio or a vegetable garden or some small grassed area where people could have a picnic or play. And if you notice, to the east of the drive, there's a long green space along the rear. And we feel as though that's actually a nice quality open space by the length and the width of it as well. And it's also going to be a great area for snow storage also. So where Lot 3 only does show one, and I have to take a step back, we have a parking space in a garage in each unit. So there's a garage parking space, and then there's 2 parking spaces outside of each unit. So if the board was supportive of us going to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get a variance on that minimum 15-foot by 15-foot dimensional criteria for the usable open space, we could actually accommodate the additional visitor parking space for each unit, specifically on Lot 3. We've spent some time and thought about how we want the units to look. We've retained the services of Gavin and Sullivan as an architect. There's architectural renderings and floor plans in your packets. And we feel as though we've come up with a well-thought-out floor plan layout and an exterior appearance of the units. We first showed the rendering to the neighbors last weekend. We had a meeting at in the basement level of the Sacred Heart Church, and they really liked the rendering and the style of the housing. We're going to have these roofed entranceways that are recessed back off of Andrew Street for each unit. And we've included some small overhangs, some nice gable end features off the sides and the rear to try to complement the sides as well as the front of the units. Like I said, we've incorporated the patio areas off the sides of all the units, so there'll be some quality outdoor spaces. And there's garages which are in the rear, so you don't see the garages from the roadway. So a lot of the, you won't see the vehicles too much off the roadway and all that activity you have that's associated with garage activities. We have a common driveway entrance into the project off of Moore Street that's set back from the intersection of Andrew Street and Moore Street, approximately 125 feet. We feel as though that's a ample distance to have an intersection. We're also, by putting the entranceway there, you'll see on the plan, and it's not too clear, but there's 6 existing shade trees along Andrew Street in front of the units. And we would be adding 2 more shade trees to complement that row of trees. And coming in off of Moore Street, we're going to propose a 18-foot driveway which will have 2-foot gutter lines on the side that's going to be a porous pavement technology, so that the main wearing course, which would be the primary middle of the roadway, will be regular pavement, but it'll shed to each side to a porous pavement drainage swell. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to maintain the grades fairly consistent across the entire property. We've gone in and performed some subsurface testing last week. We have conducive soils for infiltration, and we think that this design is going to be a, if you take a look at the zoning ordinance, it kind of puts you into this design, actually. In working with DPD, we felt as though that this project fits with the style of the housing, the historical nature of the housing that was here even before the Sacred Heart Church. If you look at the old plans of record, it had small multifamilies along this roadway. The interior corridor driveway, we're going to propose a row of ornamental trees on either side to kind of give it a nice look coming into the drive. And as you can see, this plan in the location of the drive is conducive to having ample snow storage, more specifically on the eastern side of the drive. And there's plenty of areas for people entering and exiting the property. We have turning radius templates we use on vehicles, and this entire schematic works for maneuverability within the property as well. Like I said, we met with the neighbors last weekend. We invited them all to come this evening, and what I can say, I can't speak for the neighbors, but they were overwhelmingly supportive of the project, and I think it's just because my client, Dean Jenkins, has kept a very close dialogue with the neighbors. I think he's met with them even 3 times to go over this project, so. Maybe I should have started with this. Essentially, we would be asking for 2 special permits. One of the special permits would be the reduction of frontage from the 80 feet to 65 maximum, of which is required by the ordinance. And the other would be, I'm going to have to come up to the board, I think. See this little small notch? That would technically have to be added as an additional parcel.
What?
With the way that the zoning ordinance is. As well as there would have to be a horizontal line here that would have to go across. And this would have to be a separate parcel to be added to the main parcel.
Is that what's yellow on your plan that you gave us, the little, I mean, like, there's like a pinstripe yellow? The colored plan? On your colored plan, is that the yellow strip you were talking, is this it here?
No, that's
Okay.
an existing line.
So what about this? Is it right there?
No, it would be a line here. In this parcel, this area would have to be added to this because of the new.
Where those 3 parking spaces are?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Where it says 3 for parking? Okay.
No more drive.
So let's go back. So the city adopted an ordinance which tried to eliminate these small pieces of land that were not really part of the, like a conducive regular rectangle or a square. So they wanted those individual slivers to be separated from the main parcel unless you came in to get a special permit. And that was to get some control over the configuration of the lots, in that just because you met the minimum square footage, it wanted to make sure that the primary square footage that would be allowed would be usable. And what that was they wanted to make that rear lot line 80% of what the required frontage would be in that district. Where I think there's going to be some discussion in the upcoming months and years is fine when the frontage is 80 feet. But when the frontage is 65 feet, which would be allowable by a special permit, it's not 80% of 65. It's 80% of the 80 feet. So if you allowed a 65-foot width lot, the rear lot line would technically have to be 64 feet. So it doesn't give you any leeway in the rear. I think when they created, it didn't carry through to what was allowable by a special permit. That being said, it still puts you under a special permit, and it provides the planning board control over how the lot is configured in the layout of the dwellings.
If I remember correctly, this is, this was the change to the zoning ordinance around the time we were discussing that project in Belvedere. And it doesn't forbid that configuration, it simply makes it a special permit requirement, right?
Right, which,
Okay. You're already here.
even though it doesn't forbid, it doesn't make it an as of right,
It makes it a special permit.
yeah,
Right.
so.
So you said that, excuse me, you need 2 special permits, one's for the reduction of frontage, and I'm sorry, what was the second one?
The other one would be to add those areas that are in those slivered areas to be added into the parcel total area to meet the minimum requirement area, which is 8,000 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's a special permit.
That's it, okay, yeah. I
It-
mean, is it
it's-
on all lots, or just, I'm not catching it all?
Yeah, it's 2 special permits, one for the frontage reduction,
Right.
and then one for going underneath the 80% requirement for the
Okay.
lot width.
I got you now. I got you now, okay.
And then we would be going to the zoning board of appeals for the driveway width requirement, which is 15 feet. Unless your project is completely porous or non-impervious. And we're proposing a curb cut of 21 feet.
21-foot curve cut with an 18-foot driveway, right?
That's correct. And that's because we're going to be having more than one dwelling utilizing the curb cut itself.
So would this be a public or private way?
This will be a private way.
Each of the property owners would have a right-of-way to pass over the other's property.
That's, it's an access easement.
Yep.
We're also going to be running the utilities through this rear area. Andrew Street was recently paved a couple years ago. So, as you can imagine, to do a new project into that paved roadway would be problematic. It's actually better, we have a gas main going diagonally through the entire parcel, going out onto Moore Street, so it actually makes sense to be running the utilities that way anyways to Moore Street.
Yeah.
So,
What is the length of the drive now? The length from Moore Street to the end?
that's a good question, Mr. Walker.
46.
That is another special permit that's going to be needed, is
For the length.
driveway length, yes.
The what, Joe?
Driveway length greater
Driveway
than
length.
200 feet, yes.
So you need a special permit for driveway
Yes,
length?
yes,
Okay.
excuse me.
What about turnaround space on that, like for emergency vehicles, fire equipment and everything? I think that you might have to change that.
Unless they
Well-
just do it right from the street.
We're going to speak with the fire department.
Oh, yeah,
If they
all right,
service it
yeah,
from-
okay, you can service it right from the street,
Yeah.
yeah. But the length is
Yeah,
an issue.
yeah.
But to answer that question, it is
Could,
They
you
wouldn't
could,
go in there.
you wouldn't even go in there.
335 feet is the length.
Yeah, so you'd need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What about sidewalks? Have you got, this rendition shows a sidewalk and it doesn't really indicate it on here, do you?
Well, the sidewalks are the sidewalks existing on Andrew Street. So we'll be taking the curb cut out of Andrew Street and replacing that with new sidewalk.
Yeah, Okay,
In new curbing?
yeah, good.
Yep. And then within that common drive, we didn't feel as though sidewalks would be necessary. We are gonna have these leveling porous pavement strips on the sides, which I believe will provide ample room for people to walk in and out of the property.
So how wide would those be?
2 feet.
Oh, okay. On both sides, it looks like, though?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And do you think you'll be able to infiltrate the runoff from the paved surface into those?
Yes.
4 foot, and that will be able to handle the storm events?
Yes. And we're gonna, run the calculations. If it needs to be 3 feet, it could be 3 feet, but we feel as though that's gonna suffice for the needs there. All the roof runoff is gonna go into dry wells as well. Those aren't shown on the plan. I didn't want the plan to get too busy right now, but we'll be infiltrating all the roof runoff as well.
So would you have some type of association for maintenance for the driveway to maintain?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Either have the guy down the end doesn't get out, I guess, in lot number 1. You have to wait till everybody else shovels in front first, huh? Not the early riser on the
You'd
group.
have to have a coordination.
You know, we discussed with the neighbors that, the owners could use the street as well. So they acknowledge that there'll be occasions, I'm sure, where, some of these property owners might use Andrew Street to park a car at some point if they need to. We doubt if they would be eligible to be partitioning the city for an overnight parking space because of the ample parking that they're gonna have. But they didn't seem too bothered by that. But we know that, life isn't perfect, but at least they have the street to utilize if an emergency they need to do that.
So was it just lot 3 that has only the 2 parking spaces instead of 3 like the other ones?
Yeah. But like I said, we needed to create that 15-foot by 15-foot usable open space. But you could almost fit 2 cars with the space that we provided there. I'm even looking, I'm doing another project where we've discovered this new porous paver with grass. And it's not the concrete type, but it's actually plastic. And it's completely grass, but you can drive right over it.
Yes, I've seen that.
So there's different ways to provide something would be green to be in that 15-foot by 15-foot. But we feel as though that area in the rear, on the easterly side, is a pretty sizable area for somebody to play ball with their son or something along those lines, and feels though that it's actually a usable, very usable, open area to be used.
So on lot 1 and 2, where you have the proposed usable open space kind of across the driveway? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Where it says proposed 15 by 15 UOS across from lot 1 and 2? At the end of the driveway on the right-hand side?
Yeah, that is on the rear, because there is enough room to meet it.
Okay, so would that be designated somehow, or it's just,
It's just, there's a requirement that says you have to have 500 square feet per dwelling unit as usable open space. Part of the 500 square feet has to have a minimum of a 15-foot by 15-foot square. The rest of the area that is comprised of that 500 square feet can be as shallow as 2 feet wide or 1 foot wide. But what we're trying to express here but we have broad areas to provide quality usable open space regardless of the dimension.
so I mean, I'm seeing that it's proposed here, and it's like a dotted line, but basically, there won't be anything marked on the green space saying that this is,
No,
okay.
no, it's
I'm
just,
saying, how would, lot number 3 be any different from 1 and 2 technically, except it gets a little narrower there, but, so you're just using that as an example for the space that they could use, okay,
yeah,
okay.
And it's
we only,
more than that.
you have to show the 15-foot by 15-foot because it's a required dimensional requirement for the usable open space, not require that you have to use the open space in that area. You actually need 500 per unit, so there'd be 1,000 per lot, which would be fully conforming.
And being realistic here, if this was to be constructed as shown on this plan with only one official particularly wide parking space for each of these units, what would happen is that the family that lives there would park cars side by side, and one of those cars would wear a rut into the grass and into the mud,
Yeah, that's
just
probably
off the driveway.
Right.
That would usually be the one on the blocks, yeah.
So,
Or the boat.
Oh, the boat, yeah, yeah, the ski-doo, whatever, yeah.
We had discussions with the neighbors over there about the demolition phase of this. How long might that last?
We did. We're actually anticipating demolishing the building by the end of this month. We're very, one of the reasons why we wanted to continue this process in an expeditious manner is we want to get this entire project constructed this year. So the building will come down in the next few weeks, and we feel as though, we really need to, get in the ground in the beginning of the spring and we're going to put all the foundations in at one time. Even though all the units won't be fully constructed, they'll be constructed through the winter of next year.
Is this going to be a ownership of each individual parcel, or is it going to be rental?
No, these are going to be fee-owned by the individual units.
will it be one condo association?
No.
With all with 1, 2,
The-
3, 4, 5, 10 units?
So each duplex will be on their own parcel.
Uh-huh.
They'll own their unit, and they'll have an exclusive area, which is basically gonna run up the center of the lot, that they'll be able to use on either side. So there'll be an condominium, I guess you can call it a condex plan for each unit. And then the entire group of housing will be facilitating the maintenance of the roadway, the driveway.
Now, where you aren't going to be selling individual buildings as a duplex, one owner of a two-family, and where you're also, but you're going to be selling each individual unit as a fee owner, and where you're also building a homeowners association for all of them to take care of the driveway. Why are you going with condexes for each lot instead of one condo association?
Because each duplex is gonna be on its own individual parcel.
But a condominium could own more than one lot. One condominium association could own more than one particular lot, and it would still be.
Well, a condominium association owns, if you're a member of a condo association, you own typically the inside of your unit, okay? The exterior of your unit is owned by the condominium association, as well as the external landscaping and everything else exterior to the primary portion of the house. You might find somebody on lot 1 and lot 2 will be doing different things to their property than what people will be doing on lot 2 to lot 3. So we're not providing control over the entire development as a condo association. People are gonna be able to individually utilize their properties as the condex documents allow them to.
The reason they bring this up is because there's a unique hazard with condexes, which is stalemate. If the two owners don't agree, there's no chance of a tiebreaker. You're much less likely to have a 6 versus 6 stalemate where nobody will move than two people. Condexes have, they tend to get into a little more of that paralysis than larger condo units.
I mean, there's going to be covenants and restrictions that can be placed on each condex to avoid that type of interaction between two property owners or condex owners. But that was the intention. Attorney Flood's not here to specifically address that question. But that's my understanding as I know it, and again, we can further address that as we move
Yes.
forward.
Don't need an answer tonight, just a concern.
Joe, does planning staff have any comments? I know, as Matt said, they discussed several plans with you.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that kind of stands out is the ornamental trees going along the common drive. Some of them are right square on some of the lot lines. It might be beneficial just to tweak them a little bit one way or the other, just so, maintenance might be, unless it's going to be part of the maintenance for the association, it might be better to have them definitively on one lot or another, just so maintenance is more clear on who's going to be responsible for that.
Yeah, I thought about that too, and maybe we may make the ornamental trees part of the association and put them on the lot line so that they don't get removed by one or the other owners. The other thing is, we're gonna be having some roof dry wells coming off the corners of the buildings, and I didn't want the dry wells to interfere with the landscaping. But we can work our bless you, Mr. Malcolm. We can work our way through that, but we were also thinking that the ornamental trees can also designate where people's property lines are. And we can put the maintenance of those ornamental trees into the maintenance of the drive and make that part of, a component of the drive.
Matt, what do you anticipate the size of the patios? I see each person has a nice patio on the side. Are they all gonna be a standard size or basically?
Yes, they are.
Okay, what do you think they'll be? I'm just curious.
I believe they're 8 by 10s.
Okay.
Pretty small, but that's nice.
The unit that is on the corner of Moore and Andrews, the street line, is there any thought to giving some low-growth landscaping to give some privacy to that patio area?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good idea.
I was thinking that something similar. All of these other sides are sides of the building, whereas this one is a front. And so I think a little bit different treatment at that door.
Because being a corner lot, you have two fronts, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that
If
makes
that
sense.
if that could look a little more like a front porch instead of like a side door with a patio, just for that one.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can put an overhang
Yeah.
there,
a ho-
sure. Just to
an
complement the
overhang.
front
Facing the
entrance.
street and then, some little privacy or something.
Maybe you do the steps up onto the porch and actually have a porch deck there instead of have a patio and then steps up to the door. It just becomes a little more important there, not only for the attractiveness for the side, but, where Moore Street is such a main street,
Yeah, a little more privacy.
it becomes a little more important to step off of that public space. And along that same line,
Only 7.5.
some low plantings would be one idea. An additional street tree, maybe along that length, halfway along the length. In general, you look at the frequency of street trees, both in the public right-of-way and then the two you add along Andrews Street, and they're much more frequent than along Moore Street, while because of the busyness of Moore Street, and it being such a prominent, the main street through the neighborhood, it's probably even more important to have street trees along there. So I'd like to see those a little more frequent.
It's not a problem at all.
Yeah, screen it somehow, obviously.
Oh, sure.
If you come in the patio being out 10, it's 7/8, so you have 7/8 from this, from the street off the patio. So, it's a good point to screen it somehow, to make it a little more privacy.
Yep.
Say, Joe, the other ones would be a little more private on their own, because they're all set back to each other, they're more side yards. Even the one on the other corner on Moore Street.
Right.
Yep.
Because their deck is on the side, on patio, whichever way you want to call it, instead of facing the street as well.
On
We-
the subject of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
On the subject of street trees, I was out there, I noticed there are a couple of trees that are already there at the corner. It's the middle of the winter, I have no idea what sorts of trees there are, there's little berries on them. Is that a type of tree that might be worth saving, instead of, taking those trees out, reinstalling a new street tree? They're probably, what's there now is larger than what you'd probably plant. And they're already established.
I just want to give you a heads up. My recollection of the original school was on the corner,
Yes, it was.
and it was burned down in the 60s.
That's correct. Yep.
My recollection says that the laws about demolition weren't the same, and they may have filled the cellar hole with debris.
Oh, yeah, we found all that the other day.
You did find
Oh,
it?
yeah, sure.
But
Yeah,
that's a
bricks
fascinating archaeological site.
and stairs and all sorts of debris down there. So all that unsuitable material will be removed. It was primarily right where the old school was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what's that, the current parking lot now then?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be.
okay, yeah, I'm familiar with the existing site, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, closest to the street, out by Moore Street.
right on the
yeah.
corner.
That was the old church.
It was the old,
Across the street, right?
it was the old school,
Yeah.
the original school
Okay. Yeah.
that I attended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we found all sorts of
Well,
stuff down there. Yeah. So we'll be, all those unsuitable materials will be removed.
When I was visiting the site and I noticed behind it, one of those properties, I think it's probably either the one Robillard or Huath. It looks like it's either in the middle of a construction project or in very dilapidated condition. I couldn't quite tell because I went out in the dark. And that must be yes, okay.
Oh.
Do you know what's going on there?
Sure, I sure do. The gentleman who owns that building, very nice man, has been trying the best he can to complete his house. He picks away at it each year, and he's trying to do the best that he
Okay.
can. And that's all I can say, is he's just trying to do the best he can, but he is still trying to fix his house, sure. But it's not abandoned or anything like that. It's just somebody trying to work through, trying to complete his house, so he has all good intentions. It's just he just does a little bit during the year, each summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have one other comment, Matt, and that you really have a good opportunity, a great opportunity to impact the streetscape along here and the neighborhood in general. So the landscaping along Andrews Street and around the corner on Moore is really, critical as I look at it.
Yeah.
I know you work with these guys and do.
So,
the
yeah,
best you
we just hired a landscape
Just-
architect, so we're gonna be
No, really,
utilizing her
really look
input
nice.
on, picking out appropriate trees along Andrews and Moore.
can. Yeah, it's a nice project.
Anybody else have any other further questions, or any further comments? If not, I think we'll see you coming in soon in the future,
Yeah, we'll be in April.
in April?
In April.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you very much, we'll see you
Great,
then.
thank you.
Thanks for the presentation, appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Joe, is this the first time something has come in where that zoning amendment about the 80% requirement has come into play?
Yes, it would be the first seeking a special permit for the 80%.
Okay.
Okay, moving along the agenda, Joe, I know you have some stuff under, old business to pick up,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so
briefly.
what would be beneficial for development services to have is to have the planning board appoint one or two people in the department to be able to sign A&R plans in the event somebody were to file them. Since Aaron Clausen left, we haven't had any come in, but there have been a couple people that have reached out to the department to ask who's signing them now. I have something I would like to bring in. So it would be beneficial to have one or two people appointed, at least temporarily, until a new senior planner is found, in order to keep that moving forward.
So you made a recommendation either be yourself and or Eric?
Yes, myself and Eric Slagle. It would be beneficial to have the two of us.
Before was Aaron, who was there backup with Aaron as well? I forget.
Craig.
Craig.
Craig was at one point, yeah.
And I didn't know if Adam was on that list. He was at one point, I don't know.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Where we fall.
Wouldn't be.
A long time ago, before George Perwakis even. So.
Yeah, okay, George, yeah, okay. So you're requesting that we make a motion to appoint two temporarily, yourself and Eric, so if one's not available, the other will be available?
Correct. Yes, that would be
So
ideal.
temporary measure until we have a senior planner on staff?
Yes. Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
while we're dealing with this, maybe this would be a good opportunity if I could get a little education about the process here. Do A&Rs ever come before the board? Is there a decision-making process laid out for when they bring the A&Rs versus when they just get signed internally? Are there certain things decision about when the board should sign them versus when staff should sign them?
Typically internally, what we've done is when we've signed an A&R, we usually draft a summary report for the board's review to understand what the process was, why the A&R was sought, and why it was able to get the endorsement. I can think of once or twice where we've brought it to the board for you to see why we were going to sign it. So then that way you were given a heads up. It's usually has to deal with the scale of the proposed plan. One I can think of was over on Nottingham Street, where there was a building recently torn down. At one point, there was an A&R filed for that address that was going to subdivide into 11 lots. So we felt as though that was something that was definitely merited bringing to the board's attention before we basically had to sign it.
Okay, so just the size of projects?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, basically, a lot of times we'll get a report, on the old business, these are the lots they deserved
Yeah,
it, we signed off on it.
signed off.
Other ones they brought in and said, this is the A&R, we wanna make sure the board sees it, want the board to know what's going on in this matter. Do you have any comments, questions before they sign off on it? Or sometimes they ask, not necessarily for our approval, but, I forget if we gave it before or just they wanted to
Yeah.
inform us what was happening on it, and we had any questions on it before it was signed off.
Yeah,
But usually like something that was a little bit more out of the norm.
yeah,
I mean, something bigger scale, not just, the two lots meet conformity on the regular street, had the frontage and everything else.
yeah, that's a good
I
synopsis.
mean,
and-
sometimes when they transfer, they have the two lots together, and they transfer the other property to other people's house, so it makes the two lots.
Yeah, so a lot of those smaller ones, right, we've
We had one up by
typically
Long
only
Meadow
given the
Drive or
port.
something
but-
recently, not too long, Havilah Street, right up in that neighborhood where there was one
Yep.
that was signed off on.
Yeah, and the larger
After the
ones.
person did, they
yeah.
transferred it, so the other people had their property. Right.
Right, and the larger ones, you're right. We've usually brought it into, maybe, I think typically we have taken a vote to have the planning board endorse it, but then we've gone ahead, we've signed it only after the board's done, so.
Because if we go back, one of those A&Rs that got approved that were legitimately approved, I believe was on the corner of Harvard or Livingston Street.
Yeah, that was the first one dealing with the frontage
That's what
reduction.
triggered
Yep.
the 80%,
Yep.
right?
Well, that triggered the frontage reduction.
Right.
That was,
Because we had the problem down the bottom of the street, then they said the A&R, then they said the planning staff didn't do what they were right.
that really,
They mentioned us, even though it didn't come before us,
We never
and the
saw
planning
it.
staff shouldn't have signed off, because it was in so many feet away, but it was conforming, and they changed the rule on that. That's how we had the Harvard Street project come before us for 80% reduction of frontage. That was all brand new, that started that whole new set of requirements that was passed by the council in our zoning change. That all started with an A&R, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's how that all came into play.
With an A&R.
I seem to only be able to remember one meeting since I've been on the board in which the planning department brought us a report about A&Rs that they signed. Am I remembering incorrectly, or are they really that rare these days?
It might, yeah, we haven't had a lot recently. I can think of 3 that are outstanding that are likely to be coming in soon.
Is one of them on Andover Street?
Yes,
Is that gonna be 3 lots?
yes,
Oh, that's the,
That's the Red House?
Huh?
That's the Red House?
yes, the Worcester House.
the
yeah.
one that's up,
At the,
that's 580.
when those came in, I made the request, and I'd like to reiterate the request. When we get these A&R reports, could we please get plans? As they would, last time it came in, there was just a verbal description. And
Sure.
it's really hard to follow without being able to look at it, at least for me.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments by any board members from following up on any of the boards that they're on?
No, I have nothing tonight.
Jerry, anything from NEMCOG? No? Anything else? Any other things from planning staff? Joe? Any other comments that you have for our consideration?
Sure. Just as a heads up to the board, we did have a preliminary meeting about the Thorndike factory property. We had a preliminary meeting about that, so they did start conversations with DPD staff and other city staff as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if something within the next couple of months came in for that.
So how'd that go? Good?
Yeah, it was a pretty positive meeting. Yeah.
Are they gonna do anything with the exterior of the building? They talk about that yet, or?
Yes, they did start talking
look a little
to
nicer
Steve
than
Stoll,
just
our
factory-like?
historic board administrator, and Peter Acella from the National
Oh,
Park.
okay.
So they started conversations with them. They were in that initial meeting as well. So it does look like some exciting things going on over there. So,
That'd be a good location to get some business into, for sure.
mhm.
Well, it's commercial and
Yeah, and you
residential,
got the
right?
next
Yeah,
train
it's
station right
a
there.
mixed-use development that the developer's
yeah,
proposing.
Come from the train station, go there
That's a
first, jump on the
nice
train, or
project.
vice versa,
Yeah.
coming off the train, going there, you know?
The site has all of my very favorite things. An old mill adjacent to a transit station, a park across the street.
Yeah, I
pizza- and a
know, it's
pizza
got all
place?
the ingredients.
And a
It
restaurant,
does,
right?
it does.
Hey, yeah.
Traffic should be a big concern.
Yes,
turning
we did inform them that they're gonna have to
into that
conduct a
area.
traffic study.
Where the
It's all
location
maxed out, so I got.
Okay, anything else? If not,
I have one,
oh, go ahead, Joe.
one question for staff. Several months ago, there was a proposed amendment before, that was sent to this board for its comments about medicinal marijuana dispensaries, and at the time, the upshot was we needed to wait until the Department of Public Health came out with some guidance and some regulations about these things, and then get back on it. I'm curious about whether there's anything going on internally to redraft that zoning.
Yeah, so this was something that came before the council to seek basically what pathway they wanted to choose laid out. We had that initial draft that had come forward, but we decided to wait until the DPH regulations came out. Once they did, we presented the council with working off of that draft that we had started, devising a drafted ordinance for a moratorium. The council wanted to have a moratorium, or what the council ultimately decided was to do nothing, which was a decision based on the 2 different types of medical marijuana, I guess the 2 aspects of the business, one being a cultivation facility and one being a dispensary facility. You don't typically see them in the same location. We have zoning categories now where those 2 different uses would fall under, and the zoning districts where they were not allowed, or they were allowed by special permit or allowed by right, seemed to make sense to planning staff and ultimately the council. So they elected to do nothing,
Just treat them as
treat them as those separate
a
uses.
retail use and an
The-
agricultural use?
So the dispensary falls under other healthcare facility.
Okay.
It's only allowed by special permit in the city. And then
Hasn't that location been picked already? I think I read that.
the,
Off Industrial Ave.
right, so that will require a special permit from the
It
zoning
doesn't
board.
come here at all, it's just somebody picked it.
unless there was some modification to the parking lot that went over 15 spaces or something along those lines, that necessitated some sort of relief from this board. At this point, it seems like it only require a special permit from the zoning board.
The other use, the
Cultivation,
cultivation and
production,
production
yeah.
processing, is that an industrial use under our zoning?
yes,
Okay.
it would fall under, in one of the industrial uses, I think it's manufacturing, processing. It falls underneath that. Again, it's not really allowed in residential areas, which is, I guess, more so the big concern. Special permit in some of our commercial districts. So,
Well, that could be big, that could be big business, that could be a lot of jobs, that could be a lot of spaces, a lot
It's
of
actually-
tax-paying space.
yeah, it's actually allowed by right in our industrial districts. And you're correct, that side of the business is where a lot of the jobs are located. So,
Has anyone from the city contacted any communities that currently have these and have already developed their zoning regulations?
there's been a lot of discussion, a number of interactions with different municipalities discussing the matter and what different communities are doing to write their bylaws if they're writing a separate bylaw for it. So,
Good, glad to hear that the city's on it.
yeah.
One more question, so we're getting status. Is it rezoning of Rogers Street?
It's still in the zoning subcommittee,
It's in a zoning subcommittee,
correct, with the council, yes.
okay.
They had one meeting, I believe, last week on the matter. And I'm not sure when the next meeting for that was scheduled, but it's still in the zoning subcommittee stage.
Who's on that subcommittee?
I believe Councilor Milanazzo, Councilor
Yeah,
Belanger,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the third one, I think Councilor Kennedy.
Okay, that's been kicking around a while. I think. So,
Any other further comments from board members? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's made and
Second?
second by Mr. Fischett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Thank you and good night, everyone.